same proclamation.
But you have two readings.
Oh man. Okay.
Good?
Wait a minute.
All right,
So I
I
did
think-
three seconds.
You just do, yeah.
We're live at this point. Y'all ready?
Born ready.
Yes.
Stand by one.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Town Council meeting, April 25th, 2023. We've got a big crowd out here, and welcome for those that are joining us via live stream. I would like to just make a quick statement here. This year is our sesquicentennial, or our 150th anniversary of the town for people that aren't aware. Each year since 2017, Think Apex Day has been celebrated. It gives us ways to give back and to celebrate others who give back to our community. Our community that is made up of various different peoples that make us an amazing town. This is the peak of good living, and I'd like to ask you to think about how you have given, how you do give, and how you will give to our community. The town of Apex values and celebrates diversity and inclusion, and we see diversity as a strength that binds our community together. Inviting members from different faith communities to deliver the invocation at the beginning of our council meetings supports this unity. Recognizing that not everyone practices the same traditions, I'm going to welcome you to have a private moment of silence at this time. Thank you. Now, if we will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll begin with our consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item may be removed for discussion. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All that say approved, say aye.
Aye.
And nay. All right, so we've got our consent agenda approved. Next, we'll go into presentations. We have 4 proclamations today. So we're going to begin with the first proclamation, which is Apex Small Business Week, April 30th through May 6th.
That's me. Okay. Whereas, for more than 50 years, the U.S. Small Business Administration, or the SBA, has celebrated National Small Business Week, which recognizes the critical contributions of America's entrepreneurs and small business owners, and
Whereas small businesses are critical to the growth and economic vitality of our nation, region, and town. And whereas small businesses in Apex sustain jobs, add to our community and culture, and bring innovative ideas and products to the market. And
Whereas small businesses create 2/3 of the new jobs in the U.S. each year and represent 99.6% of all businesses in North Carolina. And whereas the town of Apex is home to an array of locally owned shops, restaurants, and services. And
whereas the town of Apex and our small business partners have created a week of activities to celebrate our local small businesses.
Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem, on behalf of Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the town of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of April 30th through May 6, 2023, Apex Small Business Week in the town of Apex, and encourage residents to join me and all of us in celebrating Apex's small business community during Small Business Week and all year long. So this will be presented to Colleen Moraes.
I have an Apex small business owner here from Apex Gallery in downtown Apex to actually receive the lovely proclamation. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
I will say on behalf of the downtown businesses and really all of those businesses in Apex, we appreciate your support. We look forward to your support in the future, and keep shopping in Apex.
All right.
So our second proclamation is Civilian Law Enforcement Professionals Week, April 23rd through April 29th, 2023.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll kick us off. Civilian Law Enforcement Professionals Week 2023. Whereas civilian law enforcement professionals play an essential role in coordinating various operations within law enforcement agencies, and whereas civilian law enforcement professionals are vital contributors in today's law enforcement work environment and key public relations ambassadors in these organizations, and
whereas the work of civilian law enforcement professionals requires advanced knowledge and expertise in communication, technology, project management, organization, analysis, customer service, criminal justice systems, community services, and the willingness to learn and accept new challenges, and
Whereas much of the work of civilian law enforcement professionals is performed behind the scenes and often goes unrecognized. And whereas the Apex Police Department and Town of Apex depends upon the assistance, expertise, knowledge, and dedication of its civilian law enforcement professionals to serve the citizens of this town, and whereas Civilian and Law Enforcement Professionals Week will be observed annually in Apex to show appreciation and gratitude for the contributions of our civilian law enforcement professionals.
Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem Audra Killingsworth, on behalf of Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the Town of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of April 23rd through April 29th, 2023, Civilian Law Enforcement Professionals Week in the Town of Apex to honor the men and women whose diligence and professionalism support the Apex Police Department and help keep our town safe. All right, and this will be accepted by our Police Chief, Jason Armstrong.
If I could just take a couple minutes to say a few words. First off, I want to express my gratitude for the council for accepting our request to acknowledge our civilian law enforcement professionals. There's a lot of work that goes into keeping our community safe, and it's not just the police officers that are out on the street, it's not just the telecommunicators that answer the phone, but there are a lot of people that contribute behind the scenes, you know, to keep everything running as smoothly as it runs. And so thank you all for recognizing this and doing this for us, and committing to this being something that we do annually to recognize everybody that helps keep this community safe. Thank you.
Our third proclamation tonight is Public Service Recognition Week, May 7th through May 13th, 2023.
okay. Whereas our residents are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and municipal levels, and whereas the Town of Apex employs nearly 600 talented and hardworking people who have amassed over 5,000 combined years of government service, and
whereas in often difficult circumstances, our civil servants work to protect and improve quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors, and whereas the day-to-day operations of the town depend upon the fantastic staff who ensure the trash gets collected, the water keeps running, and the lights stay on, and
Whereas many public servants in our town risk their health and safety daily through the execution of their duties, including police officers, firefighters, and emergency services personnel, and
whereas Public Service Recognition Week has been celebrated during the first week of May since 1985 to honor the people who serve our nation as federal, state, county, and municipal government employees.
Now, I, therefore, Audra Killingsworth, Mayor Pro Tem of the Town of Apex, on behalf of Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of May 7th through May 15th, 2023, Public Service Recognition Week in the Town of Apex, and recognize all public servants, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated and vital service to their communities. Thank you. So this will be accepted by Mary Beth Manville, our HR Director.
Well, first let me say, coming from a family of public service, I recognize at all levels public service, but tonight I would like to ask the Town of Apex employees specifically, if you would stand, if you're not standing already, and that includes those up on stage. And if you would please give them the pleasure previously of working in other places, and I can tell you Apex has absolutely the best employees. And so thank you for your support of us, and thank all of you as well.
All right, our last proclamation today is proclamation for Think Apex Day. That's this Saturday, April 29th, 2023.
And it's my pleasure to kick off this reading with Think Apex Day 2023 proclamation. Whereas Think Apex Day was created in 2017 as a day dedicated to giving back to the Apex community by volunteering in ways that positively impact the town and the people who live there. And
whereas former council member Nicole Dozier asked residents to write down what Apex meant to them on a Think Apex banner at Peak Fest in 2017, creating a mosaic of comments such as a beautiful place to live, a great community, and home. And whereas Think Apex Day is part of the Apex 150th celebration year and earns participants a Visa sticker as part of the passport to the Peak. And
whereas the Think Apex initiative has a unique web presence and an annual awards presentation that highlights members of the community who make significant impacts. And whereas residents can go to the Think Apex website at www.thinkapex.org/946/9-Think Apex, whatever. You can read it. To get more information on Think Apex Day and to register for multiple volunteer opportunities and activities. And whereas it is our hope that the Think Apex initiative highlights how all parts of Apex, businesses, residents, and visitors alike, can come together to create a stronger and more vibrant community.
Now, therefore, I, Audra Killingsworth, Mayor Pro Tem of the Town of Apex, on behalf of Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 29th, 2023, as Think Apex Day in the Town of Apex, and encourage all residents consider some form of participation, either formal or otherwise, that will further enhance the commitment to our community and to one another. And we will have Ms. Barbara Balisic accept this proclamation.
We have two members from the community receiving the proclamation. Cambridge Village representative, our local senior center, and Jim Allers with Western Lake Crisis Ministry. And they are two recipients of two of the activities that we do at Think Apex Day.
We sincerely appreciate the council's support of Western Lake. I would encourage all of you to come out and volunteer. We're doing God's work helping some really needy people. So thank you. Take this with us.
Yes. Just one more thing. If you just Google Think Apex Day, it comes right up.
Yes. That's better. Should have tried that. Should have tried that one. Yeah.
It's on the town webpage. It's on the town webpage.
Think Apex Day comes right up, and we have two activities that still need help: Think Reduce and Think Earth. So if you can sign up by tomorrow, that would be great. Thank you.
Bing works too.
If you want to be on the side.
All right, so we'll begin our regular meeting agenda. I've not heard of any changes or additions to the meeting agenda. Okay, so if we can get a motion to adopt the full meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? None. All right. So the next part of this is our public forum. So our public forum allows the public an opportunity to address the town council. The speaker, we're asking that you not speak about public hearings scheduled on the regular agenda. And we're asking for you to come forward if you were signed up, and if you will give us your name and address before speaking, that would be great. All right, thank you. All right, so we've got 2 people signed up for public forum. We have Ashley Solis.
Hello. Ashley Solis, 1273 Brown Velvet Lane, Sweetwater Subdivision in April. Sort of a continuation of the last 5 times we've been here. I kind of collated everything that we're requesting from the town. Where we would like some painted crosswalks put in, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I know that's been something that's been newly installed at different intersections at Apex. It seems to be successful. Still with the reduction of the speed limit on we're asking specifically that Richardson between US 64 and Olive Chapel. So from 45 to 35, and that wouldn't be all of Richardson, just that specific stretch. We're also asking, the more I'm researching and looking into this, bringing in specifically a pedestrian safety consultant of some kind, because I know everyone's doing the best they can, but if they're not trained specifically for pedestrian, I'm not as concerned with city traffic. I'm concerned with children in the street getting hit. So, and the main pressure for this is I'm really hoping we can get this done before Richardson is turned over to Departments of Transportation, because I think we all know it's dead in the water then. We'll never get anything done. So there's a lot going on, and I feel it's the town's responsibility, because the commercial side of Sweetwater was approved and it's awesome. I can't wait. But with that, you can't approve outdoor venues and outdoor concert areas and farmers markets and all these things and then not do anything for safety. And I don't think anyone did this on purpose, but we know it's a problem. So there's a huge amount of liability and pressure that I feel as a concerned citizen, and I'm sure you feel, for the safety of the kids in Apex. The apartments will be done at the end of this year, one of the buildings, and that's 240 additional units. So that's more traffic, more kids, more families crossing the street to get to the food trucks, more families crossing to get to the pool, which opens in 3 weeks for us. So it may not seem like it, but this is an extremely pressing matter. And I would ask that you consider making at least several of these in the interim. It's not that hard to paint lines for crosswalks. And then we can maybe get somebody out there to look at doing the flashing crosswalks, because that wouldn't interfere with anything unless someone's crossing the street. As you know from the speed study, there's over 4,000 cars a day right now going through. And I don't even want to tell you how much that's going to increase after 64 is opened back up and after the commercial side is in. I've noticed increased police presence in Abington and Linden around us as Richardson has been closed for construction. And if they're having problem with people speeding through their neighborhoods, we've just shifted our problem to them for a little while. And it'll be our problem again in 6 weeks when Richardson opens back up. So I would ask you to seriously consider it. And again, if anyone else wants to come out and take a look sometime, I would be happy to show you.
Thank you. All right, our second person signed up is Marvin Harmonson. Is that correct? All right.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Town Council members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I would like to make 4 quick points. I am here to promote safety on Richardson Road in support of my fellow residents of Smith Farm and nearby Sweetwater Development that are sitting in the back. As I stated at last meeting, the schools in Wake County are at capacity and it will take years to build them. So why are we allowing such rapid growth in the community? There needs to be an ordinance amendment that if we don't have adequate room in the schools, no new development should be approved. There also needs to be more family-friendly activities in Apex. We as a town need to approve family-friendly developments such as putt-putt golf, bowling, ropes course as example, and cultural events such as movies, concerts, and live theater, similar to what Cary is also developing. Finally, I would like to know why Apex Peakway is not completed after the bonds have been approved. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Could you give us your address for the record? I'm sorry.
Sure. 2907 Sunflower Road, Apex, North Carolina, 27502. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. And that's all who have signed up for our public forum at this time. All right, so we'll begin our public hearings. Our first public hearing, we have annexation number 754, Morris Tracks, Prestwick, and that would be Diane Kim.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so this is 14.129 acres located off Morris Acres Road. It is the Prestwick subdivision, formerly known as Morris Tracks. This is a project that had been previously approved for 88 townhomes and 9 single-family homes. They are requesting annexation in order to get town water and sewer and town services. And they are close to getting their construction plan approval and need approval of the annexation to get their construction plan approval. That's where it is with the corporate limits. Staff does recommend approval.
Any questions from council? All right. So I'm going to open our public hearing, and no one signed up, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and the matter will go back to council for discussion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so that passes unanimously. All right, so our second public hearing, rezoning case number 23CZ01, Cash Corporate Center revised, presented by Ms. Amanda Bunce.
Good evening. So this rezoning is to amend the permitted uses and add a supplemental standard in Cash Corporate Center, which is located in the southeastern portion of our jurisdiction. The area to be rezoned is approximately 83 acres and is currently zoned light industrial conditional zoning. The zoning district will remain the same. There are 3 parcels included in this rezoning. 2 are vacant and 1 has a building that is near completion. The applicant held their neighborhood meeting on January 18th, and you have that meeting report. The 2045 land use map designates the land area as industrial employment, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with that classification. Since the time that you received your staff report, one use has been removed. An additional use has been removed by the applicant, and that is gas and fuel wholesale. So with that, there's now a total of 36 uses that would be allowed within these 3 parcels. The new uses that are being added include building supplies wholesale, warehousing uses, manufacturing and processing minor, repair and maintenance, general repair services, contractor's office and storage yard, and commissary, among others. And the supplemental use standard that is proposed is outdoor storage shall be prohibited as a principal use. This rezoning was exempt from meeting with the Environmental Advisory Board. The Planning Board heard this at their April 10th meeting and unanimously recommended approval. Planning staff also recommends approval with the conditions as offered by the applicant. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the 2045 land use map, and the rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will provide additional flexibility in the types of uses allowed, encourage compatible development of the property, and allow for uses that will generate jobs and increase the tax base. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Ms. Bunce, can you describe a little bit the thought process with the planning regarding the increased flexibility of these new uses versus maybe the disbenefit of them being less good job rich type of uses, and how that was kind of discussed within the department?
So we looked at the uses proposed, and one thing that was starting to become an issue was having to evaluate several uses that seem to be a blend of multiple uses that aren't clearly just one use. And so providing additional flexibility makes it easier for certain businesses to locate within Cash Corporate Center. We reviewed the list of proposed uses with Economic Development Director and worked with the applicant to reduce some of the other uses that had initially been proposed to whittle that down to what we felt was appropriate to provide flexibility for the parcels.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Applicant is here.
Hi, good evening. I do have a presentation. I need yours ready for you. Thanks. Good evening. My name is Ashley Honeycutt-Terrazas with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm also joined and I'm representing the property owner, Rock Point. I also have with me Tim Brent from Apadan, the developer of these properties. This request involves an update to the list of permitted uses in the light industrial conditional zoning for a site that has long been earmarked by the town as an economic development center. The development of the industrial flex space project is already well underway, with one of the planned industrial buildings built. And as you can see in the background of that slide, that's the completed building approximately a month ago. There's also an approved site plan for 2 additional industrial flex space buildings that are going to look very similar to this. And this case is really about cleaning up and slightly broadening the permitted uses in the industrial park, or for this section of the industrial park, to ensure that it's fully leased up, adding to the tax base and generating those jobs for Apex residents, as has always been intended here. As Amanda mentioned, these 3 properties total approximately 83 acres. It's surrounded by industrial uses. I think it would be fair to characterize many of these as fairly heavy industrial uses. So you have the wastewater treatment plant, the asphalt plant, wall recycling, concrete plant there as well. And then the Empire Distributors, Pinnacle Park there to the north, Empire Distributors, and EnviroFlight, which were also part of the Cash Corporate assemblage. The Cash Corporate assemblage, as shown here, has gone through 2 other rezonings in the past 5 years, all to bring about this economic development to this area. The first case was in 2018 when the light industrial conditional zoning was first applied. There was a development agreement with the case at that time. And the second case was in 2021, and that case involved some updates to the conditional zoning, mostly related to the form of the development, the look of the buildings, those sort of things. Again, we're not changing, as Amanda said, we're not changing the zoning district. It's still light industrial conditional zoning. we're just asking to update the permitted uses to allow more flexibility so that a wider range of tenant businesses can use the space to make sure it's always occupied and generating those jobs for the town. And I'll just reiterate that the development for this industrial park is not changing. This is the concept for the entire development. Again, it has the 3 parcels that are included in the rezoning case, and then that 4th parcel in the southeast, which will also be part of the same park, was actually part of a different rezoning case back in 2017. It actually has almost twice as many permitted uses already on that parcel. And so we expect that this will make leasing more consistent across the entire park. And again, this is just some more updated pictures of the site today. As you can see, that first building in the park has already been built. And again, those pictures right there on the right were taken about a month ago. That's what it looks like, and that's what the 2 buildings that are planned for the other parcel are going to look like. And so this is the permitted uses on the site there in that green box on the left. Again, 25 uses permitted on the site today. The blue box on the left shows the 11 additional uses that we're requesting. Again, these come from the list of permitted uses in the zoning on that 4th parcel in the development that isn't a part of this case, and will make it more consistent. We're also updating, bringing this permitted uses list in line with the recent text change the town council passed in January related to the warehousing and wholesaling uses. And as Amanda said, we've worked on this list with staff over the past several months, and thank you so much for your help. And just putting the zoning conditions up here on the screen, again, 1 through 8 are the conditions that are already on the property today. So we're not touching any of those. Again, so the EV charging stations, the masonry, the architectural features, look of the building, those things were already incorporated into the site plans for this project. What we're adding is that outdoor storage be prohibited as a principal use at the request of staff. And then this is just a summary of the text change that was passed by council back in January, again, updating that wholesaling and warehousing definitions. And in some, the development for plans for this property, that job creating industrial park, that's not changing. But based on market feedback, we need a little more flexibility with the uses permitted on the site to make sure that the new industrial park reaches its full potential in terms of bringing businesses, generating jobs, and adding to the tax base for the town, as has always been intended for this site. And we respectfully ask that you approve this request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions for our applicant? Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. No one has signed up, so I'm going to close the public hearing and send the matter back to council for discussion and possible motion.
I will just say this. I know that initially, the initial plan for Cash Corporate Center was, to try to attract in a lot more kind of, I guess, human capital-based businesses that are there. But I think it's important to note that, the market is essentially shifting the desired uses to something that is consistent with our zoning plan, but just outside of the permitted uses. And it seems as though these permitted uses or the additional proposed uses are still consistent with our current zoning policy. And I know it will attract additional businesses, I think, a little bit outside of our original vision of what Cash would be. But I do think that in the end, when we look at what we're doing, we're actually making this a very attractive spot in order to bring in the businesses that are going to be able to not only support businesses here, but support regional businesses, whether it's RTP or other communities. So to me, this is something that I feel like we should be able to support. I'd be voting in favor.
Any other comments?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
can we clarify that that's removing the use, gas and fuel wholesale? I believe that was correct.
That's correct, yeah, so removing gas and fuel wholesale, and then, but adding the proposed additional uses. That right? Okay. What she said.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
And then all against? All right, so that passes unanimously. All right, so we have public hearing number 3, rezoning case number 23CZ02, Triangle Home Services Phase 2, presented by Shelley Mayo.
Good evening. The case before you is located up on US 64, just off of it in the western part of the town's jurisdiction. The parcel is just south of 64. It is currently vacant with perennials, well, with a couple of streams on it. It's immediately south of Triangle Home Services' existing site. They're currently under construction, as you might be able to tell. To the west and to the south is the Legacy PUD. This is an apartment complex here, and this is vacant land that might become a school in the future. To the east, we have the American Tobacco Trail, as well as Smith Farm and Deck Air Park. This property is currently zoned rural residential, and the applicant is proposing to rezone it to TechFlex conditional zoning. The site is about 4.5 acres. It's currently located within the town's mixed use section, the 2045 land use map. It's designated high density residential, office employment, and commercial services. TechFlex is an approved use within that, or approved zoning district within that designation. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on January 26th. That meeting report is attached to your staff report as well. The applicant is proposing about 51 different uses, so I'm not going to read them all to you. I am going to give you a sampling though. We've got uses ranging from daycare facility to veterinary clinic or hospital, restaurant general, office, business or professional, glass sales, self-service storage, warehousing general, and microbrewery. There are several proposed conditions. The architectural conditions that are stipulated are consistent with what we typically see on non-residential projects, so I'm not going to read those out loud to you. In addition, the applicant has added that there shall not be a buffer required along the northern boundary adjacent to this property, the existing Triangle Home Services property. So that means there won't be a buffer going between here. And that's because this property is intended to develop along with the property to the north, so it doesn't really make sense to have that buffer required there if they're both developing together. In addition, if the use is commissary, contractor's office and storage yard, and or wholesale distribution center are proposed within the zoned property, an 8-foot opaque fence shall be installed to provide additional screening of the stored business vehicles from the American Tobacco Trail. This is in addition and above and beyond the required buffer for the American Tobacco Trail. As the UDO is currently written, that is a 50-foot type A buffer, so fully opaque. The applicants also added a condition that we've asked for everything that's developed around Deck Air Park and the air park just up on, just south of Old Jenks Road. That's that there's an aviation notice added on, basically letting anybody know who owns property there that there are going to be airplanes flying in and out, that there is associated noise from an existing use out there, and that the intent is for that to continue on as long as possible. Condition 5 is the used glass sales shall be all indoors except where materials are stored on trucks. Outdoor truck parking for glass sales must be fully screened from any public rights of ways. Self-service storage shall be limited to parking, drive aisles, and SCMs on the rezoned parcel. That means any buildings required for it must be on the northern parcel. And contractor's office and storage yard shall not permit an outdoor storage yard on the zoned parcel with the exception of any company vehicles stored when not in use. And this one was added partly because there's a stream that you cannot see here that runs roughly diagonal to this, that connects up to some other streams on this portion. So there will be a small 1.5-ish acre parcel. We don't have the engineering yet, so I'm estimating on the south side here. And the idea is behind some of these limitations is not only for aesthetics and other property values, but also to limit the impacts that they might have on the school to the south. The applicant also attended the EAB on January 19th. The EAB recommended 16 conditions. Of those, 10 were added. Those are all listed in your staff report. I'm only going to read out to you the 6 that were not added. The language that's in here is consistent with the other EAB recommendations you've seen before you. The only ones that were not included were lowering the maximum foot candles for efficient lighting outside of buildings, installing timers or light sensors or other smart lighting technology on the site, and incorporating natural lighting techniques into building design, preserving tree canopy or prioritizing medium to large healthy desirable species, installing community gardens and native pollinator demonstration gardens, and providing a minimum 10 kilowatt solar PV system to be installed on the buildings. The applicant is here and is happy to answer any questions you have regarding those particular conditions. Planning Board heard this on their meeting at April 10th and unanimously voted to recommend approval as presented by the applicant. Staff has also reviewed this and recommends approval as proposed by the applicant. We believe it's reasonable and in the public interest because it will permit additional non-residential uses that are compatible with the surrounding properties, implement stricter environmental conditions than the UDO requires, and allow the property to be developed in conjunction with the property to the north. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
I have a question real quick. So will this property allow for connectivity to the parcel where there might be a school, or is that another parcel that has to be added in before that happens?
This parcel is immediately adjacent to the one that will have the school. There's actually 3 parcels that were part of Legacy PUD. Mm-hmm. This one, and this one. So this one is the one that was in between. Okay. It is highly unlikely that the applicant will be interested in doing that, simply because they will have access to the future major collector running through here. And they are actually participating in the construction of that road with Legacy. They've decided to split the right-of-way along their shared north-south property line.
Okay. Thank you.
I noticed some of the uses related to like the warehousing, that sort of thing. I imagine they're gonna have a lot of truck traffic bringing stuff in and out. And I was wondering how you guys in planning thought about that kind of use within the TechFlex in close proximity to future apartments. That maybe when when the parcel to the north initially was zoned, there was no apartment envisioned yet, I guess. I'm not sure what was envisioned for this area besides the land use map. So do we have situations where there's kind of potential for heavy trucking across the street from residential, and how's that, how you guys just think about that and evaluate that sort of proximity?
I understand completely. One thing to keep in mind is the parcel to the north is TechFlex without any restrictive conditions. So it is straight TechFlex. They can put anything they want there as long as it's in the UDO, and they have absolutely no conditions about access or anything like. So part of what we were looking for on this site was to make sure that the uses that we restricted, that we asked them to remove, and there were a good 10, 15 uses that we asked them to remove. There were an additional 15 or 20 that they took out on their own, was to make certain that if this develops together, anything that comes through the driveways for the property to the north, sorry, I'm trying to back up and think of how to say this. We're trying to make sure that they were complementary to each other and make certain that anything that results out of the combined development is appropriate for the area. And by restricting some of those uses on this site, you actually de facto restrict some of the uses on the northern site because they can't put their property kind of across the property line or have portions of one property or portions of another. I know exactly what I'm trying to say, and it's coming out not correctly. Amanda, can you help?
So essentially, if a use is not allowed on the parcel that's subject to the rezoning, then then the parking, drive aisles, and so forth can't be, for a use on the Tech Flex 10-acre parcel to the north can't be located in this conditional zoned area.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, I guess a follow-up now is, this is, I guess it's a hypothetical, obviously, but if this zoning had included both parcels now, when the apartments have already been approved, would that equation have been different for some of the uses on this one that you're being allowed to, or that you're suggesting?
It's difficult to say because it is Tech Flex, but it's possible. Most of the uses that we worked with it was deliberately to pull out some of those heavier trucking options. Warehousing, unless it's a distribution center, which is no longer the same use as warehousing general, really doesn't have that much traffic. You'll generally get a couple of trucks in a couple of times a day, max. You won't typically see 18-wheelers pulling in and out of here on a constant basis. You won't even see package vehicles typically. So the UPS brown trucks, for example, or the Amazon trucks pulling in and out of here on a regular basis, because typically they bring in a couple of large loads and then they stay there. They don't go anywhere. The distribution centers and the trucking terminals are really the ones that have the biggest traffic and the most frequent biggest traffic. You'll occasionally see some of that with the contractor's office and storage yard, but that's the reason why we limited that one to only allowing company vehicles to be stored when not in use, so that they're not able to bring in large trucks that have all kinds of equipment on them and everything.
Are there examples, the first thing you talked about with where it's 1 or 2 per day, are there examples in Apex that people would know about, including me?
Examples, so there's several down by Pristine Water Drive. There is, if you take Lufkin at where it intersects with 55 and take the right there, where it's kind of it's been paved recently, but for a long time it was gravel. There's actually a big building on the left-hand side as you're driving down that. It's just up the street from Cash Corporate, and the entire inside of that is nothing but warehousing. And there really aren't that many trucks that go in and out of there. They actually have multiple different subsections for different companies within there, but they still don't see more than a handful of trucks on a daily basis.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So I believe the applicant is here.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, Jeff Roach, Peak Engineering and Design. Shelley did a great job presenting like normal. I think she took everything I was going to say. So I'm almost going to go to a point where I'm just going to open up the questions, but a couple of things, my client would be mad if I didn't say something. So just a couple of things to point out. It does meet the 2045 land use plan. It truly does fill in a donut hole, as you can see here. It's tying it in. There is a major creek that runs from the southeast to the northwest corner. I ran some quick numbers today, and there's a finger of wetlands there of 4.5 acres. There's only about 2.5 acres of what I'll call usable land. So we're adding 2 acres to a 10-acre parcel to the north of it. We are working with GCI or Legacy Apex, the project next door. We are donating 30 feet of right of way. They're donating 30 feet to get that major collector up to 64. So you'll see some more super street work up on 64 for this, and that will eventually continue down. I think it's supposed to tie into Transit Trail South for another Richardson Road to go north-south, which is what I know everybody's looking for, more relief points to get to 64 in the major corridors. So we're really working hard with the neighbors next door. One of the questions that was asked about connectivity to the school site to the south of us, because this is Tech Flex, we're not proposing anything because there's that creek there. There will be sidewalks on the major collector that will connect down, and I believe that Legacy Apex has a connection proposed to the ATT. So our clients will also be able to walk out take a walk or go for a run at lunchtime or go bike riding, they can get to the ATT relatively quickly, not cutting down through the woods. Huge slope elevation change from our site down to the ATT. So a couple of things. We also have a couple conditions in here about additional buffering. The uses for some of the uses, they can only have parking or SCM, the stormwater controls on this property. That's kind of been our vision all along, is that the stormwater ponds would be located down here. You may have a small parking area or U-turn or drive aisle to get people back up onto the major collector. And there's no reason for the trucks to go anywhere but north up to 64, south into the site. So I don't envision them going anywhere farther south. And like Shelley talked about, with this type of use, you're not looking at 18-wheelers every 2 minutes. You're talking about a couple a day. So with that, I'm not going to go into all the details. I know you guys have, Mr. Gant, we talked, and I know you have some questions. I'm here to answer questions tonight, and hopefully I can answer them appropriately. Planning Board did recommend approval unanimously, and we look forward to hopefully gaining your support tonight. So I'm here to answer questions.
I asked you to remove self-storage, even if it's just for the parking and the SEM. Is that under consideration still?
I think we still want to leave it just in the event they use it. As you guys know, they're under construction. I know a lot of people drive 64 all the time. You've seen the 27,000 square foot building that's going up right now. I think they just started digging the foundation for it and footings. So that's a 27,000 square foot call center. So we've got some office space there. I don't know what they're going to do south. They're kind of hemmed in right now because they're actually on well and septic until the GCI project next door, Legacy Apex, develops. That's where the water and sewer are coming from. That's where our client's working so well with them. There's a trade-off to get water and sewer out here. So we want to kind of leave those uses open. I see it more of an office type use out here than anything else. And I think the owners sees that as well. So using it just for the drive aisles. We did restrict no buildings back here. So it's simply just drive aisles and parking, and then the SCM that's needed if a self-storage comes on the property, the northern piece. So.
Any other questions? All right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, so I'm going to open the public hearing. There's no one who signed up, so I'll close the public hearing and send the matter back to council for discussion and possible motion.
Yeah, I mean, I view this as a fairly simple matter. They already have 10 acres above here that's Tech Flex, and they acquire the adjacent property. I have a hard time giving anyone a hard time about, clearly it's compatible if it's the exact same use next door that they already own. That's a very small, amendment addition to that, I guess. No, not technically an amendment, but so under different conditions, maybe I'd give you a hard time about the, tobacco trail right there and bigger buffers or whatever, runoff or something. But considering, I view this as almost larger than a technical correction, but it's to me a different class of matter than a straight rezoning of a new property where we're fundamentally changing the uses of the area. It's philosophically how I look at it.
Yeah, I was viewing it the same way. It's just basically an extension of the use on the northern side. So I'd have a hard time kind of restricting that use, especially we're cleaning up a donut hole. So it seems like it's a consistent use to me.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't like self-storage. I think that's broken record, you guys. And it's a feature, not a bug. It'll be a smaller self-storage unit if we don't allow this to be self-storage, which to me is a good thing. The smaller a self-storage thing is, the better, because that's a waste of land, in my opinion. So I'm gonna vote no.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against?
No.
Okay. Passes 3-1. All right. So public hearing 4, we have rezoning case number 23ZZ03, Viridia expansion, presented by Amanda Bunce.
So this rezoning is actually in 2 different sections. There are 4 parcels included, 2 that are on the south side of 540 on either side of Viridia Parkway, and 2 that are on the west side of East William Street. The total area is just under 25 acres. The properties are currently zoned rural residential and residential agricultural, and are proposed to be all 4 to be rezoned to sustainable development conditional zoning for Viridia, so essentially the same exact zoning as the Viridia development. The 2045 land use map designates all 4 parcels as regional mixed use. The applicant conducted their neighborhood meeting on January 30th. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the regional mixed-use designation on the 2045 land use map. Viridia is a unique zoning, as you know, and one of the provisions in the Sustainable Development District is that land of any size within 2,000 feet of an existing district can be incorporated into the existing zoning with approval of Town Council. And as part of that, any development thresholds approved, square footage of non-residential uses, density can be increased on a pro rata basis. In this case, the applicant has not requested an increase in the number of residential units that are approved in Viridia, but the pro rata increase would apply to the retail and office industrial square footages that are allowed within the development. The applicant did meet with the Environmental Advisory Board in January, and you have the table of uses along with, in this case, staff's response to the EAB's request, given the unique nature of Viridia and the fact that these parcels will basically assume the same zoning conditions that are applicable in Viridia. No additional zoning conditions are offered as part of this rezoning. And so staff has responded to which suggested conditions are already addressed in the Environmental Enhancement Plan, which are already addressed by the UDO, and which may not be addressed. The Planning Board reviewed this at their April 10th meeting and unanimously recommended approval. Planning staff recommends approval with the conditions as offered by the applicant. The rezoning is consistent with the 2045 land use map and is reasonable in the public interest because it will encourage more efficient and compatible development of the properties, provide for the same development standards as applicable to the undeveloped adjacent properties, and allow for uses that will generate jobs and increase the tax base. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Questions for Ms. Bunce?
Ms. Bunce, has staff been approached by a landowner that wants to be part of this kind of zoning where their property, let's say 1950 square feet, close, it says close enough within 2,000 feet, but it's not, it's isolated from this. Has that been proposed yet? And how would you guys deal with that?
Oh, so if it was like a satellite from that?
Yeah.
We have not been approached by anyone that meets that criteria to date. And I think that's something that we would have to evaluate depending upon where it was. I can't imagine a situation where it would be completely detached from it. Okay. But I see the question that you're asking. To date, that just hasn't come up yet.
It seems like it'd be weird to do it that way, but they'd be entitled to ask for it though, right?
They would be entitled to ask for it, but it would have to come to you for approval.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Bunce. I believe we have the applicant with us. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Killingsworth, members of the council, Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group. Thank you for the opportunity to be here on behalf of RXR Realty, the owners and developers of Viridia, and like the Environmental Enhancement Plan before it, as well as the various activities that you're seeing going on related to Viridia from an approval standpoint. We're seeing a lot of firsts with Viridia and the very unique zoning district that was created when Viridia was approved back in 2011. Just a little bit of background for you on these 4 parcels. These are 4 parcels that were acquired by the previous owners after they went through the original zoning for Viridia, but they never took them through the rezoning process. So these were properties that were acquired by RXR at the time of closing when they closed on the site, but they don't have the zoning for the SD. And as Amanda noted in her presentation, the ordinance is extraordinarily unique in so many different respects, one of them being the way that you add property to it. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting that you had the case before you that you did, where it was kind of like, it feels like an extension of the zoning before it, so it's kind of hard to argue that it's not compatible. This is literally an extension of the zoning. I mean, by operation of law, the moment it's approved as a conditional zoning case with this classification, all of the regulations that apply to the rest of Veridia are going to apply to this site. It's very, very unique. I've tried to pull it off in other places. I think it's actually kind of an interesting model, but I continue to run into some issues of trying to convince people that it works in every instance. But I think it works here. Mr. Gant, I think that provision may have been created to prevent the opportunity to create expansions. So if in the event there was like a landlocked owner who decided he just didn't want to play ball, but somebody across, on the other side wanted to sell their property and have it zoned that way, I think it's designed to kind of facilitate future expansions. At least that's what I would suspect to be the case. But I'm not aware of any of that going on right now in terms of folks seeking satellite expansion. Last point I want to make, and I think it's important, there is not an increase in the residential allocation associated with this case. There is an increase, as Amanda noted, in the office and industrial as well as the retail allotment. So with that, happy to answer any questions you all may have and would respectfully request you all's approval of the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? All right. Thanks. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to open the public hearing. It looks like no one signed up, so I'll close the public hearing, send the matter back to council for discussion.
Motion approved? Sorry, we're going to discuss.
Not much. I call it viral zoning. So that's what I've deemed this case. Like the way it just expands to the other properties is interesting, to say the least.
Hopefully it's a helpful virus, not a damaging virus, right? Okay. Motion approved?
Second.
That's a motion to approve with the conditions, right?
Yep. What were their conditions? It was just an expansion of the existing zoning,
With
right?
expansion,
Oh, with the non-residential being limited, or being residential being limited. Yes, there you go.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And all against? There's 0. So approved unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, so we currently don't have any new business. So next is updates by our town manager, Ms. Katie Crosby.
You mind if I do it from here? Just a couple things. One, I just want to reiterate what Mary Beth, our Human Resources Director, communicated about our public servants that work on behalf of us. I'm really grateful to serve on behalf of a team just a stellar team who contributes so much to the town. So I just want to add some additional recognition and appreciation, and we'll be celebrating our employees in a couple weeks. We have some really cool t-shirts that you all will be receiving, so I'm looking forward to spending time there. Secondly, I want to congratulate our fire chief and our new fire cadets that were sworn in on Friday evening. It was a very nice event and had a really good time, and ready to get them out there, and hopefully soon they'll be in their new fire station if we can finish getting it up and running. And then last but not least, just want to encourage everybody to come out on Saturday for Think Apex Day. It's really a great opportunity to give back to the Apex community, and we're looking forward to seeing our residents and our community stakeholders involved in that. That's it.
Awesome. And I believe our cadets helped win the rib eating contest.
They did?
Right?
Yes, they did. That was like the final
Controversial.
final thing they had to do before they crossed the stage. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I have one more. Also, if you go to the town's website, you'll see a link to something called Peak Connections, which is an opportunity for residents and other stakeholders to schedule time with me, and it'll have a list of times that will be updated every month. So I'm just, if anyone wants to meet with me just to get to know me, please feel free to sign up through Peak Connections.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I would like to just very quickly kind of go down the line and, if there's anything that's important or interesting that you've participated in or groups you've spoken to over the past week to 2 weeks, let us know about it and just kind of tell us what's been happening in the community.
I'd love to start off with saying thank you to the Apex Youth Council for being present for yet another one of our meetings. It's always inspiring to get a chance to see our community members, particularly our younger community members, involved in government. It's a great thing. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Big round of applause, and thank you for thank you for putting up with my intro music. I appreciate that. That was good.
Awesome.
That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a couple things going on. I'll say I think most of us we were all here. For the firefighter cadet swearing, that was an amazing ceremony that they put on. I was in the back. You guys didn't save me a seat. That's okay. Not angry about it.
If you're on time, you get to.
All right. Which brings me to my next point. I had the opportunity to meet with the artists in the Apex Art Walk. Was immediately before that event. It was at the Heli. I met a bunch of the artists. They're amazing people. A couple locals this year. And I encourage everyone to. I think there's an app coming out, right? Like with the walk and the tour and some audio elements to it. It's gonna be pretty cool. So I encourage everyone to check that out. And Saturday was Earthfest, which some amazing last moment shifting around by staff. We moved it all inside at the last second, and we ended up putting on. The team ended up putting on a great event that I was really worried it was going to get rained out. And even though it was pouring rain at points, it was still really well attended. Really cool vendors there. We had this dude in like a fox suit writing poems. You guys see that? Apparently that's a thing. I was not aware of, but everyone's like, that's a thing. I'm like, okay. I didn't know that. I had a chance to be at the booth for a couple hours and met a lot of constituents, and it was an excellent event. I'm looking forward to next year. That's what I got.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to mention the festivals too. Maybe I'll mention the Pig Fest and upcoming Peak Fest. So I'm involved with the Apex Sunrise Rotary, and we help organize the Pig Fest. And I know the amount of work that goes into organizing these, and I know how great the town is to work with. They mentioned Graham Wilson is the guy that liaisons onto the town on that project, and he mentions the quality of staff interactions and the helpfulness all the time. And I know Peak Fest is upcoming and a really big event as well. A lot of town work goes into them. So hope the weather's nice, but I think we should all as a community appreciate what the town does to help with these events, because I think they make Apex what it is. Thanks.
So yeah, we've got a lot of great stuff happening. We've got Peak Fest coming up. We've got the Home Repair Fair coming up. That's going to be talking about ways to use resources to help repair your home and to stay in your home to make it, to maintain affordable housing. So I think there are a lot of great opportunities out there, and some people just don't know about it. So it's at the Apex Senior Center. Remind me the date.
May 4th?
Yep. So May 4th at the Senior Center. From 4 to 7 o'clock. Thank you. So yeah, I would say take a look at our website. We always have really great events that are posted there coming up. So if you're looking for something to do, check out the website. We also have our 150th passports that have all the activities that are coming up that you can participate in and get little passport stickers. So other than that, I think we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.